I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on Metal Rules, we are speaking with Danko Jones for the release of the band's new album, Electric Sounds, due out on September 15th. Welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Another killer album.
Thank you.
We spoke in 2021 for the release of Power Trio.
Okay.
Totally different world back then, right?
Yeah, it was. Uh yeah, totally different world.
Yeah,
Totally different everything.
yeah. I imagine this is totally different vibe putting this album together and writing the songs for it.
Well, what Power Trio taught us is that because of the pandemic, we had to be apart from one another, and it showed us that we could write songs that were just as good as, or even better actually, than when if we were in a room for 4 hours trying to work on a riff for 45 minutes that wasn't working. We could trim all the fat at home and send files to each other. And that led to Rich moving across the country to Prince Edward Island, another province entirely, and to the East Coast, and then JC moving to Finland. Wow. So we all just kind of realized that we could make this band work without having to be in the same city.
That's cool. It's the same thing with my full-time job also. We learned also that we could work remotely. We could do everything we could possibly do before, and even more.
Right.
So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, a lot of things changed during the pandemic because of that, for the good and for the bad. I think a lot of businesses felt the hit because people could just stay at home and do stuff.
I get it. I love the album, as I was telling you earlier. What was it about the song Guess Who's Back that made you feel that that would hit the mark for the first single?
Not me. I'm not in charge of the singles. I'm not in charge of the songs. Someone else is. I'm too close to the songs. I always choose, I think when bands choose their own singles, whether they realize it or not, they end up choosing songs where, it showcases them a little bit, or they have a little backstory that nobody knows about coming up with a lyric, or it's close to them for some other reason other than the actual song or actual melody or actual chorus. So I take myself out of the running, because my favorite song off the album is She's My Baby. That's not a single, but I like it because the reason why I like it is because it's directly influenced by the band Sparks, and I kind of dig that. Nobody cares. They just care about the chorus and the melody, and if it's a catchy tune. Whereas I'm going man, I listened to Little Caesar from 2002 by Sparks, and it influenced me on this song, and it's nobody cares.
Yeah, no, I get it. My personal favorite song is Good Times.
Oh yeah, okay, so Good Time, across the board, we all knew that was going to be the single. That's a good thing and a bad thing, but we have been waiting for our whole career as a band to write a song like Good Time, because Good Time is kind of like rock and roll all night, party every day, you shook me all night long, these kind of choruses that you wait for. I've been trying to come up with something like that, and I never came up, and then it just kind of fell into our laps. That is, objectively speaking, very easy to identify as a single. You got to be deaf to not know that that's the single. So I can take all my biases and put it aside and recognize that is the single. And it is one of my favorite songs, but objectively speaking, you got to be deaf to not hear that. And so, that was obviously going to be the single.
No, that's a great song. It's
Thank you.
The breaks, the guitar riff, and the melody, they work so perfectly. I was thinking more AC/DC than anything else. That's what I heard.
Right. Yeah. That guitar riff was actually the thing that starts the song, that lead guitar. That was just the solo. I had that for the solo, but JC grafted that part off the solo and put it laced it throughout the song, which was, I think, a stroke of genius, because I would never have thought of that. And so we were passing, this happens when you pass files back and forth, which I don't think would have happened if we were in a rehearsal room together, unless a third party came in, like a producer, and said, hey, take that part and put that there. So like being apart from each other actually, I think, helps in the songwriting, and Good Time is evidence of that.
I agree. I agree. You know, there's so much. Well, let me start off. From the first album to Electric Sounds, anyone can notice with the band the intensity of every album that you guys put out. How do you sustain that amount of energy on every single album?
I think the fact that we've never gone gold, platinum, we've never gotten a #1 Juno, Grammy, we've never achieved the marks of success that, you know, the layperson recognizes as achievement, right? So that always just keeps us hungry. At least for me, like I'll never tire of trying to prove that we are the rock band to listen to. And it's because we've never had that one song that, you know, went #1 all over the world and defines us, and we can live off that song for 10, 20 years, or that album that we had that went gold, or, you know, Dave Grohl covered our song and now we're, you know, like that's never happened to us. We're always under the radar, and that always keeps us hungry. And that's a good and bad thing. I think when you look back on our discography, you could see the consistency, but that consistency was born out of like being overlooked, I feel.
Yeah. I think it's a great album, and I think the intensity is tremendous across the board. But what I noticed too is, and hearing your story about how it was done remotely, there was still a ton of energy on this album. What's going through your head? I mean, you're not in a studio with your buddies anymore, and you're kind of, I guess, in your studio in your house doing this. How did you sustain the high energy level that you would have when you were with your friends?
That is born out of my personal living situation. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into the details, but songs like Shake Your City, Good Time, She's My Baby, Eye for an Eye were born out of me trying to escape into my basement and just close the door and lose myself in these riffs. And it was not the coolest living situation.
Ah, okay, I got it. From a guitar perspective, how do you approach making music, I guess, before with your buddies and all in the same room, and now?
Sorry, what was the first half of the question?
From a guitar perspective, how do you approach making music before, when you were all in the same room, and now when you're solo?
First of all, I'm not a gearhead. I don't know. Like, I can't talk to you about pickups and amps and all that. I just know what I like.
Yeah.
And what I like is the sound that I've always made since I was 13 years old. The sound of every kid makes, like, that's the sound that I'm trying to capture and chase. When I find that sound, I'm usually a creature of habit. I don't like to let go. Nothing really changes, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't have like, I play Hagstrom guitars, and for me to go from Gibson to Hagstrom was a huge, would never have happened unless when we were making a Rock Supreme with Garth Richardson, we went to a music store. I picked this Hagstrom guitar because we needed more guitars for the session because we just didn't have enough. I'm not a gearhead. I brought my 3 guitars I have. And so, hey, let's try this new guitar. I tried this Hagstrom out, which was just a Metropolis. You know, it wasn't one of their high-end guitars. And it was unplugged, never plugged it in. And I said, I don't know what it is about this guitar, but it feels amazing. And that was the opening for me to jump from Gibson to Hagstrom. And since then, I'm stuck with I'm handcuffed to Hagstrom because I love the sound so much. So that's how it is, you know. Like I don't want to leave, you know. Like those Ultramax guitars sound amazing. So Yeah, I'm not a gearhead, but I do know what I like, what I want, and I know when I know when I found it.
That's very cool. That's great. A lot of people don't ever find it.
Yeah, yeah, I realize that, but I'm also a very simple person in that way, that I don't really need 1,000 pedals, and I don't, I just want that fucking sound that I did when I was 13 years old out of my mouth playing air guitar.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think you nail it. Is it fair to say that Danko Jones songs have been infused with the blues? We talked a little bit about AC/DC earlier, rock and roll all night, kind of blues, in the background. Is that something fair to say in your music? Because I hear it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, rock and roll being like an extension of the blues or a
Right.
hard blues, it definitely finds its way in all the time. I mean, it's there. It doesn't find its way. It's just there. It's just a presence. It's a specter
Yeah.
over the music. I think what finds itself in and out of our music are or other genres like punk rock,
Yes.
soul, heavy metal. Yeah, that those genres kind of go in and out song to song, but the blues is always there.
Yeah. No, that's great.
It's often unacknowledged.
Yeah, but I could definitely hear it in the undertones of it all throughout. It's like, all right, blues riff, blues, but turned up a notch. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I like it when it's hard blues.
Yes. Your lyrical messages are pretty straightforward, of living in the moment, being present, of everyday situations. Is that a fair assessment of what you like to write about and what you gravitate towards?
I just write lyrically, I just write what's on my mind at the time. Is
Yeah.
that what your question was?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, totally.
Uh yeah, I mean, they're very direct.
Yes.
There's there's no there aren't any
There's no reading
metaphors
into
or
it.
yeah, there's no real metaphors or analogies. I'm a very direct person in real life. And
Okay.
I think that translates in the music. I find if you kind of, I mean, unless I'm trying to hide something, and I have, there's been
Yeah.
times where I've sung about someone and I've masked it to be about a girl, but it's not about a girl. It's
Yeah.
about certain people.
You got it. Got it.
And so, for example, we have a song on our album "Sleep Is the Enemy" from 2006, a song called "Invisible."
Mhm.
And if you hear that song, it's like, oh, the guy broke up with his girlfriend and he's lamenting the breakup. No, it's about my parents.
Yeah.
So, it just doesn't sound cool to sing about your mom and dad in rock and roll. So, so, so yeah, so there's other things going on there. So yeah, that's when that happens. But even there, it's not this kind of like poetic metaphorical
Right.
mystery. It's just, oh, I just changed the person I'm directing it to.
It's like David Lee Roth. You don't understand what his lyrics are about. You're like, what is he talking about?
Yeah,
Very
well, it's not
straightforward.
that. Yeah, it's not. It's very straightforward.
Yeah. Like Get High, another great song. But I don't think it's about, drug abuse. I think it's just about getting higher to another level, whether it's religion or whether it's just in life, just enjoying the moment and living in that moment. And that's what I took away from it.
I mean, if you took that away from it, then I fully endorse that. Like, I mean, if that's how you know, whatever gets you through the night, just like John Lennon said. So, I mean, that's great. For me, it didn't really mean getting high either, but it also did.
Okay.
Just because I've recently started taking THC pills to sleep, not to get high, but to
Yeah.
sleep. I don't really do that. So, and then we just filmed a video for that with the other person on the track, Damian Abraham from Fucked Up. Him and I flew out to Vancouver and we did this video for Get High, on this pot farm. So it is a literal translation of the song, which and it turned out to be really funny, kind of like a Cheech and Chong type of video.
Well,
But yeah, you're right. There's another layer to that song that doesn't necessarily mean cannabis.
Right, right. That's the way I took it. I said, all right. But that's so
Right.
funny that you you went to a pot farm to film the video.
You can only find those in Vancouver.
You talked a little bit about your living situation, and do you think you could hear your state of mind on the guitar playing when you retreated to your basement to record?
Oh, wow. That's an interesting question. I never thought of it like that. But then when I think of songs like Shake Your City, it's so frantic.
Yes.
And Good Time lyrically, it's about wanting to have a good time. And
Yeah.
I was not. An Eye for an Eye was also written during that time. And lyrically, it's about evening things up. Yeah, maybe. I don't, yeah.
I could hear
And
it.
Shake
I
Your
could
City
hear.
is also about wanting to tour and to get out.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, maybe. Maybe.
I know you're not a gearhead. I know you switched to Hagstrom as you were mentioning, but I gotta say the guitar is so full of bite and it's really present in definition. What was on the back end? What was the amp you were using? And do you use a pedal?
On the album?
Yeah.
Oh man, when we do the albums, all bets are off. And there's like tons of we probably use like 4 different heads,
Wow.
and like 8 different guitars, and mixed and matched for each track. I just can't, I didn't write it. I know it's written down somewhere on some assistant's worksheet, but what we usually do when we lay down guitars is before we lay it down, we try 3 different passes with 3 different guitars. Once we've figured out the sounds and the amps, and maybe one's an F-hole Telly, one's a Ultramax Hagstrom, one's a Les Paul, one's a 335, and then we kind of like mix
Wow.
and match them. That's how it usually goes for every album we've done.
I would have known that. I really that's incredible that's layered with that different all 3 types of guitars. Every
Well,
song.
yeah, we go through like like I play it 3 passes of it as
Wow.
if I'm actually laying it. It's a long process.
Yeah.
It's when we have to do guitars, it is the most tedious. Like Rich and John, they're done their parts in a few days, and I sit there. It's not that I can't do guitar part. It's not that at all. It's just we have to go through pass after pass after pass, then find out the sounds, and then we do,
Yeah.
it's such a tedious process. Plus the tuning, that's why there's Evertune guitars, because like when you're laying down guitars, there could be one note that's a little out and we got to start over. And it's really tedious.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like fun.
Honestly, it is the least fun of the whole recording. Once you're in vocals, solos are fun.
Yeah.
Rhythm guitars are the most tedious thing ever. But once you're at vocals, you're like, I love it.
Well, I got to tell you, the way those 3 guitars come together to sound like one powerful guitar is pretty incredible.
Well,
So
it's usually
kudos.
2. Like we end up using 2 of the 3 or 4, and then we what do we call it? We taste test it. That's what it is. And we listen to it over and over again. And then by probably the 4th track, 3rd or 4th track, we don't need to taste test too much because we kind of know the sounds and everything, where everything's coming from. And then maybe sometimes we have to go back and redo the original guitars because now we know the sounds better.
Yeah.
It's just a process that I hate.
That's crazy. What do you think your biggest strength as a guitar player and songwriter is?
Guitar playing isn't really my forte. I mean, I'm all quick to downplay it because I consider myself a lead singer and performer before I'm a guitar player. But I also at the same time, I feel my solos have way improved in the last 5 years than they have. And, I'm actually very proud of some of the solos I've done where I'm like, you know what, yeah, try and beat this guitar solo for this song. You can shred me to death, but
Right.
it still won't elicit the emotions that I got from my solo. So I am getting better at solos. In terms of rhythm, I'm pretty spot on. I mean, I just told you it takes forever in the studio, but that doesn't have anything to do with my hand and my metronome. My
Mhm.
natural metronome is, I'm pretty on it. Um, uh, so I take pride in that,
Yeah.
especially when you see sound waves in the studio, and I'm pretty bang on. Um, and I've heard nightmare stories from assistants and engineers and producers where it's like, man, we were here for weeks working on 2 songs. So I'm very proud of that. And in terms of like a songwriter, well, me and JC, we write most of the songs together.
Mhm.
I can come up with riffs till the cows come home, but he's a great arranger. And so he's really good at arranging, and he's only gotten better and better and better. And every time we work with a producer, he's learned a little bit more about songwriting. So it's a good, and we know each other's strengths because we've worked with each other for 27 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I trust him. He trusts me. He trusts me that I'll come up with the riffs that'll be good enough. And I trust him that he will discern which riffs are good and how to link them all together. So it is a team.
No, that's great. How about your leads? Are they spontaneous or do you work them out before you get there? To, I guess, to
Both.
record?
Yeah, both. I usually, for a lead, I'll just start going. The first thing that comes up is usually the foundation.
Mhm.
It's never the end thing. I'm not Marty Friedman, but I'll start with the foundation, and then I will take that foundation and refine it.
Got it. Any chance you guys are going to come to New Jersey, to the United States soon?
Well, we hope so. We don't have a label in the States. We
Oh,
were on M Theory Audio, but we're not anymore. So I don't really know where that leaves us. And we get comments on social media all the time, like, what, you guys don't play the States? Do you hate us? I'm like, why would we hate? Why would we hate America? We like my question would be redirected to them. Why aren't any American labels, wanting to work with us?
yeah.
So that's the difference there.
Ah, geez. Because I'd love to see you.
We always used to come, like we'd go to New York and we'd do the surrounding areas for like 5 days, 7 days,
Yeah.
and then we'd book it back home. But it didn't lead anywhere. We didn't see any change. And we were on M Theory Audio. We were on Razor and Tie for a couple of albums. I can't remember what else at the top of my head, but we've been on labels. We just weren't with the right team, I think.
Oh, shit. Well,
And also when for example, Razor and Tie, the guy who signed us, he was so into it, and we were so happy to be with him, and then he left. And then what do you do?
right.
And it's an age old, we've heard all those
Yeah.
stories before, and it's happened to us.
I hope it could work out where you could come here. I'd love to see you play live. It's probably a tremendous show.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, yeah, like we've had some of the best shows we've had are in America, because the people who show up have been waiting for years, and they're so, like, there's a couple of shows that we've done in the States that have remained some of my favorite shows. Like we did a couple of shows in San Diego over a couple of albums, and not too long ago either. And like the people that showed up were just ready to fucking hound me, and they were just heckling, and I was heckling back. And we were both on the same page because I could see it on their face, and I was yelling at them and they were yelling at me, and it was amazing. And at the end of the show, we were just laughing. It was great. Same with, we played a show in Wisconsin, and they're in front of 40 people, but the people who showed up traveled from other states to see this like show. It was hardly like 40, 50 people, and every person traveled, and they were so into it. And again, yelling at me, and I'm yelling at them, and we got into the songs. It was amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for your time today. What a really insightful interview. And thank you for sharing all the details behind it. I really enjoyed hearing it.
Yeah, thanks. This was a great way to start the day. It was a good
Yeah.
interview. I gotta say it was, because I've been doing some interviews where I just want to pull out whatever hair is remaining on top of my head, because it's the most ridiculous. Yeah, so that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm fresh at 9 o'clock. I'm ready to go, So I'm love the more.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I am too, but like, holy fuck, they weren't.
Well,
So
I hope your day of interviews are continue in a positive way.
yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Thank you so much. It was great meeting you.
All right, great meeting you.
Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye, you too.